Hey guys, it's me, Corey, aka your pal Corey, aka cousin Corey, aka the Visual Avenger, aka Papa Smirk, and I wanted to talk about Junkpuff a little bit. Kind of walk through like my drawing process for the character. It's been probably more than a few years of evolution of like how I'm drawing him, what I'm even calling the character, and finally really happy with like what he's called, and like I know the character inside and out. I know what he does, and how bad he smells or whatever, and just doing more adventures, more comics about him, and it's cool to kind of share, I think, how to draw him, and maybe talk a little bit through like him and his whole bag. Cool. So let me switch it over and just kind of show you what I'm doing here. Cool. So when I approach this guy, it's his big head, basically. His big head is like the primary thing, and his little body takes up less real estate than that. Maybe think of him as a cylinder down there. And I think one of the things I've had to wrestle with is like making his proportions not too baby-like, like making his limbs too thick, makes him too cutesy, whereas like he's kind of cute, yeah, but like I resist making him like too baby-like. I think he's going to be looking over here at whatever's in his hand. I think it's an egg of some kind. Or maybe some berries. Berries might be good. I'm resistant to drawing perspective and hallways and rooms and things like that, but man, I sure do like environments when they're organic, give me some boulders and some trees and things, and I'm your guy, I think that's just because it takes a lot less forethought and planning, you know what I mean? You can kind of just wing it on the go, and it almost always works out, and I'm cool with that. Big fan of having these sorts of twigs, branches, and things like extending down. I keep the cute proportions for his face primarily. I mean, big eyes, but they're not sitting at the bottom of his equator. And he's got like a big underbite. If I had to compare him to anything, it would be like one of those deep sea anglerfish. He definitely has the eyes on either side of his head. He's got kind of a scar over his left eye. Kind of runs across. Always a little challenging to figure out like what that underbite looks like from the side, but I like to let it stick out. He's got big ears. Just like a nice big dome. In real life, he's probably real textured and leathery. This isn't going to be in color or anything. It's just a sketch, but because we always think of goblins in popular culture as being green, of course I've made this guy kind of a gray-blue. Just because I'm almost always moving in the opposite direction of however things are going. Or however we think about things. Not always, but that's a convention I wanted to defy. I didn't want a green dude. It's got these berries. I got these berries, man. He's got certain things that I didn't notice at first, but after drawing him for a while, I noticed like, oh, that's kind of like the proportions of his face. The eye to head ratio and the placement of him kind of echo a little bit of Jack Skellington. And also he's got this black feather tunic that he wears. And that has tufts up at the shoulder that are a little bit reminiscent of like Jack Skellington. Jack Skellington's got, what is it? I think he's got like a bow tie or something, or maybe a bat bow tie or something. But something about it definitely reminds me of Jack. And, you know, all that work is definitely inspiring to me, but I think of this as being in another realm altogether. This is kind of from that, it's like high fantasy, but it's also very much goofy, you know, part mad/cracked magazine. As much of that as anything. I remember reading, it was either the mad or cracked version of Lord of the Rings, and this was years and years ago, so it wasn't anything to do with the movie, or maybe it had something to do with the Ralph Bakshi animation or something at the time, but it was definitely early on, let's say, I want to say 1977 or something like that, 8. And boy, I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, just a send up of wizards, dwarves and stuff, you know. Anybody treating that beloved stuff with like such a, you know, just irreverence was hilarious. You know, it's like I love all that stuff, but I don't want to take it too seriously. You know what I mean? A little bit of a grid there so I can kind of work out some of the details, and then some cool, big fan of tree roots. Summer's coming, and I'm gonna have to start putting either a glove on or a piece of paper under my palm as I draw here, because I'm gonna start moistening my paper with my hands to the point where it's like, oh, I could be doing watercolor. That's how wet everything's gonna be, and it makes it real hard to use a pencil. So those are pretty much his proportions, and how he sets the thickness of his limbs and stuff. The other thing is his little black tunic. Something that I always feel I can work into some storylines is the fact that he's got this black feather tunic on, right? And I figure at some point we're going to find out the origins of his tunic, and prior to us actually finding out, there will be like, spoiler alert, like a bird, like a crow or a raven who like really hates his guts. He's like sworn enemies with Junkpuff, and you know, we'll follow along that what seems to be a lifelong, you know, vendetta that bird has against Junkpuff, and we don't know why. And then at some point it'll be like, oh man, he's got like a big bald patch on his head or back or whatever that he covers up with something, maybe a turtleneck sweater or you know, a robe or a hoodie or something. A bird in a hoodie, you know, one of those ancient medieval hoodies that everybody likes so much. That seems like it'd be pretty funny, actually. I'm gonna use some graphite to kind of darken this in, make it more of a presentable image. But like I said, my palms are starting to sweat, so not to gross everybody out, but start using paper to shield things. And I'm gonna grab a nice soft pencil, I think. 8B might be too soft, I don't know. Got a 6B here as well. Yeah, I think I'll do something like that. And then first I'm gonna take my kneaded eraser, give it the once over, kind of lighten things up a wee bit. I've been teaching some online classes to kids via Zoom, and one of the classes is a bunch of little English kids, and to them this is kneaded rubber. To hear them talking about taking the rubber to rub out some pencil lines is always hilarious. There. Take my darker pencil. Start roughing them out a little bit. Shading here and there. Little claw hands. Plus, it's fun to work in some Goblin Core stuff, like the kind of foods he likes. Nuts, berries, mushrooms. I figure like one of his favorite things is mashed potato. I mean, what could be better? You take some tubers and roots and boil them to death and whip them up with some cream. That's got to be like a goblin's dream, right? Plus, it's just funny to hear anybody talk about mashed potatoes. My Aunt Jenny loved mashed potatoes. She could just eat a big bowl of mashed potatoes. I remember, I think it's Emmett Otter's Jugman Christmas. His pal, who is not an otter. He is some other mammal. Is he a beaver? I forget. Anyway, his pal's like, "Can we have mashed potatoes?" That always stuck with me. It's funny the things we remember. That and the River Bottom Nightmare Band, which I always thought was cool as hell. I think I was already a Kiss fan by that time as a kid when that came out, and seeing those guys rocking so hard, I just thought they were bad. Bad as heck. Cache of berries. Dude's trying to clear his cache. He's setting it to accept cookies. Even though I have one of these, I don't know what's that, one of these little blending stumps. I don't know, man. I mean, I do like using it, but I think even more than that, I like seeing the texture of pencil. And when you use the blending stump, that stuff gets lost. The texture of the paper, you know, the toothiness of the paper, even though this is just like, I think like printer paper, it's nothing fancy. At some point I'll bust out with something even toothier. I've got some nice paper when I'm actually doing something that I've thought about, as opposed to this sort of impromptu sketch. Impromptu is a cool word, huh? Impromptu sounds like a vampire. I think the first place I remember seeing that word is like in the back of comic books, like impromptu magic. I was always taken in by those ads. Like, man, if I could answer this ad for like how to do magic, and this ad for how to do like, you know, black belt, like Black Dragon Karate or something. Smoke from my fingertips between that and being a deadly martial artist, learning to draw, that type of thing. I was going to be a bad man. But if anything, I learned how to draw a bit. As a kid, I did do some, I was interested in like magic, not optical illusions, but illusions, that type of thing, you know, performing magic, I guess you'd call it, right? My cousin Mark was somewhat older than me, and that dude was a magician in that all through his high school years and a bit after, he performed at like, you know, festivals and things like that. I think he built his own illusions, like he would buy the plans for a certain illusion and build a cabinet for it, install the mirrors, or however it worked. I don't know. I don't want to ruin anybody's illusion about like how magic works, so I'm not sure. But yeah, he was pretty cool. At least he was cool to me back then. I definitely thought, you know, anybody doing magic tricks was amazing. And, you know, he would come over and watch monster movies with me and my aunt on Saturdays and do craft projects with my aunt. I thought they were the coolest, you know. Magic, monsters, and creativity. Definitely a formative thing for me, you know. I take the side of my pencil a bit on this. Give them some depth on that side. And I think for some of this other stuff, I am going to stick with the side of my pencil. Not only is it quicker, but it's less detail focused. Like, I can get the shapes in there without being overly detailed, and I'd like to keep the detail on my main character there. Pardon my sniffling, I've got some allergies coming on here. Some interesting foliage shapes there, sticking up. Between the roots. Man, am I breathing like heavy when I draw? Sometimes get into a state where I'm not aware of myself, like when I'm drawing a character's eyes, often if they're like surprised or shocked or horrified or whatever, especially my wife will look over at me and say, "Are you drawing eyes?" "Yeah, how did you know?" "Because your eyes are bugging out of your head." And I'm like, "Yeah, my eyes hurt. It's because I'm opening them super wide, almost like even though I'm not looking into a mirror at that moment, I'm drawing and I can't quite get it until I sort of emulate whatever expression is on their face." So that's weird. And I might actually go in with that 8B, which is even softer than this one, the 6B, and put in a few more additional dark areas. Keeping it real loose back here. Some folks think of like holding your pencil like this is like only for, say, life drawing or sketching like that, and it's absolutely not. It's great for all sorts of applications in drawing. Oftentimes I like to rough in my shapes with the pencil held like this, get a general shape of something. I like it because I feel like I don't have that sort of minute amount of control like I would if I was holding it like this and becoming too precious about little details. And like this, I'm thinking about drawing from the shoulder and getting my overall like interesting form in there. And then once you have that interesting form and composition, you can kind of start picking out details and things like that. That becomes less important than the overall shape of things. And just some general softness back here. Got a sandpaper block around here somewhere, but I seem to have misplaced it. Where's that super soft pencil at? Here you are. 8B. And it's super blunt too, which is cool. I like keeping it fairly rounded out. Just darkening in some areas here, trying to get some more extra depth. I do want to let some little speckles of paper shine through that black area there, but yeah, sometimes I like doing little test drawings like this just to kind of give the character more placement, kinds of things at some point this could occur within a story. Yeah, well, I may not build a story around it. I might find a spot in a particular tale where he's like sitting under the old tree there or nearby. Maybe he's trying to determine if these berries are safe to eat. I have to put up with that dude barking all day. You should too. It's the least you could do if you're going to be visiting with me here. He's generally not too bad. Just anybody comes near the house, walks their dog past the house, drives by, that type of thing. He figures it's his job. It's how he earns his keep, so try not to punish him for it. Tell him thank you. Thanks, man. I appreciate you holding it down for the team. When I was about 16, I was super into metal and artists like Pusshead, who would do these super detailed, like sort of stippled drawings and stuff. And I would use a technical pen to add so much detail to something like a skeleton head that, like, man, I would lose my sense of contrast. You know what I mean? It would just be a mass of detail. And these days I would much rather opt for silhouette and contrast and shape with less detail. A little detail here and there can go a long way. Less detail tends to call your attention to things, and I kind of want to keep this guy the center of my attention, so. Yeah. Yeah, not, you know, a finished masterpiece or anything like that. It didn't start off that way, and it had no intention of, like, you know, creating a framed pencil drawing of the character, but I did want to sort of, just kind of show you how I construct the character, you know, what he's made of in terms of shapes, some of the thinking behind him, and then just kind of roll through, like, how to draw him, you know what I mean? And then the shading stuff's a bonus, you know? So, yeah, Junkpuff, man. Stinky goblin dude who can be seen in any number of comics coming up. So, all right, guys. With that, I will say bye, and we'll talk soon. See ya.